Okay, I want to ask you something, and I want your honest answer. Not the evolved, self-aware answer, the real one.
Those are different things for me. Go ahead.
Do you think putting yourself first in a relationship is selfish?
I think I was raised to believe it was.
Same, and I think most people were. This idea that love means sacrifice, that a good partner is one who consistently puts the other person's needs above their own, that if you're thinking about yourself too much, what you need, what you want, what your limits are, you're somehow doing love wrong.
And that sounds noble. It sounds like devotion. But I've watched it destroy
I've watched it
people.
destroy relationships too. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Two people who are both constantly putting the other person first and themselves last end up in a relationship full of unspoken resentment, unmet needs, and two people who have quietly stopped being themselves entirely.
Everyone sacrificed.
And somehow
Nobody
that
won.
gets celebrated as love? So let's actually define what we mean. Because I think putting yourself first gets collapsed into selfishness in a way that's deeply unfair, and the conflation does a lot of damage.
Because they're not the same thing. Not even close.
Selfishness is taking more than your share, prioritizing your needs at the active expense of someone else's, treating your partner as a supporting character in the story of your life rather than a full person with their own inner world.
That's real, and it's genuinely harmful.
But putting yourself first in the healthy sense is something completely different. It's knowing what you need and being honest about it. It's maintaining the parts of yourself that exist outside the relationship. It's not abandoning your own limits because loving someone feels like it should mean having no limits at all.
It's treating yourself as someone whose needs also matter. Not more than your partner's, not instead of your partner's.
And somehow
Also.
that basic thing, your needs also matter, has been framed as a character flaw in the context of romantic love.
Especially for women. Let's be honest about that.
Especially for women. The cultural script around feminine love is almost entirely built on selflessness, on tending, nurturing, accommodating, adjusting. And a woman who says, actually, I need this, I want this doesn't work for me, is called difficult, demanding, cold.
When really, she's just honest. But I think men carry their own version of this too, just differently. Men are often taught that putting yourself first means being strong, being the provider, being unaffected. And that sounds like self-prioritization, but it's actually just a different kind of self-abandonment.
Because you're still not actually attending to what you feel, what you need emotionally, what your real limits are. You're just performing a version of strength that also happens to erase your inner life.
So neither version, the self-sacrificing nurturer or the emotionally armored provider, is actually a person who knows how to put themselves first in a healthy way.
Both versions are people who learned to disappear.
And
Just
both of
in
those
different
people end up
directions.
in relationships where something essential is missing, because you can't really connect with someone who isn't fully there. And if both people are performing rather than present, what are you actually connecting with?
Very convincing masks having a very elaborate
Which can last
relationship.
a long time and look great from the outside.
And feel hollow from the inside. Okay, I want to get into the practicalities because I think this is where it gets complicated. Because in real relationships, needs actually do conflict sometimes. What you want and what your partner wants are genuinely different, and someone has to compromise. So how do you navigate that without either abandoning
I
yourself
think the
or
key
being
word
selfish?
is negotiate, not sacrifice. Negotiate. Sacrifice
More.
implies you give something up permanently. You surrender it. It's gone. And over time, repeated sacrifice breeds resentment because you're running a deficit that never gets acknowledged or replenished.
But negotiation is, here's what I need, here's what you need, let's find something that works for both of us. And sometimes that means compromise. Sometimes it means taking turns. Sometimes it means one person's needs genuinely take priority in this moment. And there's an explicit understanding that it balances over time.
Which requires both people to actually know what they need and be willing to say it out loud.
This is the part that breaks down most often, because so many people have spent years suppressing their own needs or never learning to identify them in the first place, that when someone asks, "What do you need?" the honest answer is, "I genuinely don't know."
And if you don't know what you need, you can't ask for it. And if you can't ask for it, it doesn't get met. And if it doesn't get met for long enough,
it comes out as resentment or withdrawal or an explosion over something that seems small but is
the argument
actually
about
everything.
dishes that is never really about dishes.
Never about dishes, always about 6 months of unspoken need finally finding a container.
Though, because I think there's a version of putting yourself first that gets weaponized, that becomes a justification for genuinely not considering your partner at all.
Absolutely. And I think the difference is accountability. Healthy self-prioritization includes an awareness of impact. You can put yourself first and still care about how your choices affect the person you love. You can have needs and still be considerate about how and when you express them.
I do what I want and you have to accept it because self-love.
Which is a real thing that happens, and it's not what we're advocating.
That's not putting yourself first. That's just disregard. And disregard isn't a self-care practice. It's just unkindness with better branding.
The version we're talking about is, I know myself well enough to know what I need. I trust myself enough to ask for it. I respect my partner enough to be honest rather than performing contentment I don't feel. And I care enough about the relationship to have the hard conversations instead of silently abandoning my own needs and hoping
Which is actually
nobody
harder
notices.
than just sacrificing everything.
So much harder because it requires you to know yourself, to stay present to your own experience, to speak up even when it's uncomfortable, to risk disappointing someone.
To believe that you're worth the discomfort of honesty.
And I think that's the real heart of it. Whether you're capable of putting yourself first in a relationship in the healthy way comes down to whether you actually believe your needs deserve to exist, not just in theory, in practice, in the specific moment when your need conflicts with what someone you love wants from you.
And for a lot of people, the answer, the deep, honest, nervous system level answer is no, not really, not fully.
Because somewhere along the way, they learned that their needs were inconvenient, too much, a burden, and love meant making yourself small enough that you stopped being a problem.
And they carried that into every relationship after.
Till they either find someone who makes it safe to take up space, or they spend years in relationships where they're technically present and genuinely invisible.
Both to their partner and to themselves.
Which is the saddest version of all, to be in a relationship and still be alone, because the real you never showed up.
So, is it selfish to put yourself first in a relationship?
No, it's necessary. Not in every moment, not at the expense of genuine care for your partner, but as a baseline, as a starting condition, you have to be someone who knows what they need and believes those needs are worth having met. Otherwise, you're not actually in a relationship. You're in a performance of one.
And the performance always ends eventually.
Always. And what's left when it does is someone who gave everything and kept nothing, who loved deeply and lost themselves completely in the process. and has to spend a long time finding their way back to who they actually are.
Which we've talked about, and which is one of the hardest journeys a person can take.
Don't wait until you've disappeared to start taking up space. Start now, in small ways. What do you actually want tonight? What do you actually need this week? Say it, out loud, to the person you love.
And notice what it feels like when they meet you there.
Feeling of being known and still chosen. That's what love is actually supposed to feel like.
If tonight stirred something in you, if some part of you recognize a version of yourself in this, we hope it's the beginning of something. More honesty, more space, more of the real you showing up in the places that matter most.
Thanks for being up with us.
3 a.m. Talks. We'll see you next time.